Weller,
For
come.
recall,
Yes,
we're going to
good
call
boy.
Weller, come. And then as
Good
soon as he
boy,
turns and looks at
Weller.
you,
I'm here,
that's when you're
buddy.
going to mark yes
Weller, come.
and begin praising
Yes,
him
good
all the way to you.
boy.
It's really important
Nice
that you
job,
mark yes
Weller.
right away. As soon as he looks,
Weller,
that's what's
come.
going to get him moving, because he knows he has done the right thing and is going to be rewarded.
Yes.
If you
Yes,
call and
good
he doesn't look at you right
boy.
away, the first thing you
Nice
want to do is
job,
wait
buddy.
5 to 10 seconds. While you're waiting, if he turns at any point
Weller,
to look
come.
at you, be ready to say yes and then start your praise and reward once he gets to you. If you call, wait 5 to 10 seconds, and he still does not acknowledge you, the next step is then to use a backup noise, to whistle, to do the noise you hear me doing there, which is like a bup, 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 but a high-pitched voice, which is bup, 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 bup. And you can make that really loud, and then when he turns to look at you and you've made whatever noise, then you mark yes and begin praising him again. That is truly a backup noise, and it's really important that when you're doing this part that you've left that 5 to 10 second pause where you gave him a chance to respond before the noise, so that noise does not become part of your recall, but is simply just a backup to get him to get a response from him and get him moving towards you. You can practice recall in the backyard. You can practice this on a long leash in the front yard or in a green space. If he is on a long leash and you've kind of gone through all those steps and he's not responding, then you start reeling him in with that long leash. And once he turns and starts kind of moving towards you, you can stop reeling him in, start praising him and getting him moving towards you, and still reward. Recall is something you want to make sure you're rewarding and practicing often so that he remembers that this is something that's really worth his time, and that he gets something good out of it. For a lot of dogs, recall is asking a whole lot. We're asking them to give up their autonomy in that moment and what they think they should be doing to do what we think is best. And so we want to make sure we are heavily rewarding that, especially when we're talking about doing this out in like the front yard on a long leash or in a public space. The other thing you want to practice with Weller is when calling him, reward, then reach for him, grabbing his harness or collar, reward again, and you can do that 2 to 3 times. And this is helping to build up for any emergency type situation.
Nice job.
Wait means stop and don't go any further. So when we say wait, we are drawing an imaginary line and telling our dogs they are not allowed to cross it unless we release them through it. And his release word is free. So when we are doing this, you're going to say wait. That imaginary line is drawn. He cannot come any further, but he is free to be in a sit, down, stand, and even move around as long as he does not cross that line. So this is not a strict stay. It is a lot more relaxed. He has some options of what he wants to do as long as he's not crossing that line. So you can see I'm doing it here. Ask him to wait, go up or down the stairs, and then you can release him if you want him to come with you. If not, you can see how I was walking around and rewarding him periodically so that he was practicing waiting for longer durations behind that line. This is a really good one to practice at the front door. Weller has a tendency to kind of want to bolt when the front door opens. So this is going to be a really important one for him. So practicing opening the door, just walking around, standing out there, building that duration again, that he can hold that weight and understands that he does not get to go unless he hears that word free. The other thing you're going to see is that on the stairs, I use that word free because I wanted him to come with me. At the front door, I'm not letting him cross that line. And so when I come back in, I'm going to reward him. And then I don't even have to say free because I'm not releasing him past that line. Same here where I'm picking up a package. You do not need to use a release word unless you're letting him cross the line. The other big thing we practiced was me not being near the door. So you can see with this package, if you needed to carry something in and it was heavy or large and you needed to step away from the door, I want to know that he's not going to bolt just because I'm not standing there blocking it. So this is a really good test for Weller. You're going to reward, but again, no release. If I'm going to take him out for a walk and I'm going to let him come out the door with me, then you can say free as he goes out the door.
Free. Good boy. Weller.
Place means go there, lay there, and stay there until you're released. His release word is free, just like it was for wait. And when we say place, we expect all of those things to happen. So we don't have to say more than place because place means to go there, lay down, and stay there. So once you send him to place, you're going to point towards it and saying place. You can reward him, and then you're going to practice moving around, walking, adding in distance, duration, and some distractions and rewarding periodically. The goal is that over time, the more you practice, you're going to be able to space out how often that treat comes until he doesn't need as many treats to do this and can hold it for longer durations. As you're practicing, again, you can add in more distance, distractions like stomping your feet, scooting your feet, dropping items, opening doors or cabinets, anything really that could be a distraction, a sound, a motion, anything like that. And make sure you're periodically rewarding. If he gets up and you did not release him, you're going to simply send him back and say, place. And then once he's there, you do not want to reward right away. You want to make sure that you make him work a little bit for it. So let's say you practice a distraction. He gets up. You didn't release him. You're going to send him back to place, and you're going to try that distraction again, but see if you can make it a little bit smaller or a little bit less duration, then reward. We want to make sure that we don't reward him for just going back to place when we've had to reset him, because you will quickly end up with a dog that has learned that he can get off whenever he wants just to be sent back for another treat. When you are ready for him to get up, you're going to release him saying free. That means he is free to get up and do what he wants. He does not have to come to you, and you do not reward with a treat. You can give him some praise, but we want to save those rewards for staying on the bed, because that is the harder part. And we want him to know that the bed is super rewarding and reinforcing, and getting up is nice, but you don't get a treat. And because there is already that natural reinforcement of getting up and moving at his own free will that comes with that. So make sure you just say free, and then you can give him a little praise, but that's it. Another distraction that Weller worked hard on was the ability to stay while I walked around him. He is very spatially sensitive, and walking close to him and kind of walking behind him like that was a quick way to get him to pop up and kind of get off the mat, because he wasn't sure what was going on. So we had to take it slow, work in small increments of walking near him and walking around him and rewarding frequently. And then we worked up to being able to walk all the way around him while he stayed on his mat. This is something I would continue to try to practice, so that way when you are doing things in real life, if someone were to move in a way that was behind him, close to him, side him, he wasn't having that tendency to kind of pop up. So I would kind of set aside time to practice this one also. Another way to practice is in real life context. So this could be when you're eating dinner like we're doing here. It could be when you have a guest over and you want him to kind of sit on his bed nicely next to you while you guys talk and visit. It could be while cooking, while working, any of those kinds of situations. You can practice in doing what I would call passive training. So during dinner, I'm going to bring the bed over near me. I'm going to place it down, and I'm not going to necessarily say place. If he gets on the bed, then I'm going to reward him by tossing him a treat. And then I'm going to continue on doing what I'm doing, cooking, eating, whatever the task is. And then when I notice he's still on there, I'm going to reward again and reward again. If I see him get off, I'm not going to say anything, because I didn't tell him he had to be there. And so I'm just going to leave it alone and continue eating. When I see him go back, I'm going to reward again. Why I love practicing like this is because we can practice long durations, longer than we can in those formal training sessions, but also we can practice and build his ability to do it in real life context with real life distractions. The other reason I do it without saying place, and I do it in this passive way, is because as you saw with the formal training session, we're kind of working with a really strict time frame of how often that reward comes, and slowly building his ability to do it between reinforcement. If we tried to do that while we were doing something else, there is a big likelihood that he would be getting up anyways, and then we would be kind of ruining that place, because he'd be getting up when we told him we couldn't. Maybe in that moment we're not able to send him back quickly to his place, and it can just kind of throw off the whole thing. So what we're doing with this is just building that foundation for place, that staying on your mat is really rewarding, and staying on your mat and making the choice to be on your mat in these contexts is really rewarding. And what typically you'll start to see is that when you get the mats out for dinner time, they immediately run. Or if the mat always stays in that spot, you'll see that when you start to do stuff in the kitchen or you start to sit down to eat, that your dog goes ahead and runs to their mat, because they know this is what I do when my people do this, and I'm going to be rewarded for it. It also does help build in kind of a random reinforcement schedule, which is a start to weaning off of treats, because sometimes you're going to be able to reward more frequently, and other times you might get distracted and there might be a little bit more time between reinforcement. So I highly recommend practicing like this as much as possible. We practice this every night with dinner, so he's very familiar with doing it in that context. We just bring the bed in, lay it down next to him, and start practicing. Before we go on a walk, we're going to get him focused. Weller. Yes. So we place a treat down, and then we wait for him to look up at us. Once he looks up, yes, he gets another treat. Yes. Get yourself tangled there, buddy. Yes. And if you can do this pretty consistently and pretty quickly without spending too much time looking around at the environment, yes, then we know he's focused and ready to go. So he's doing really good here, so I'm going to go ahead and take him on our walk. Yes. All right, so I'm heading out on our walk with Weller. So like you just saw, the first thing we want to do is just make sure we've got him focused and calm and he's not just trying to drag us out on this walk. And then the main thing that we're doing, yes, Weller, is throughout the walk, yes, if he is walking the way we want him to, so he's walking nicely beside us or even a little in front but not pulling on the leash, kind of like he is right there, then we're going to be doing what I call rewarding good choices. Yes, good boy, Weller. And we're going to be rewarding him for walking nicely periodically. And that's kind of the main thing that's keeping walking. We do see a car coming. Weller, over. So we're going to pull off to the side. Yes. Yes. Good boy. Let's go. Good boy. Yes. So while the car's going through, we're going to be doing our engage, disengage, which is our reactivity training. Distractions. Let's go. But for just the leash walking, the main thing that we're going to be doing is rewarding good choices. Okay, Weller, let's go. That's enough. Let's keep walking. Yes. Come on, buddy. I know, some good smells apparently today. Huh? And we're not going to let him be dragging us to smell. Of course, he can stop and smell things, but we don't want to let him be dragging us. Yes. So the main thing, as I was saying, that we're doing is rewarding good choices. Those good choices could be walking at our side. Yes. Walking in front of us, but with a loose leash. Or even just offering us attention when there is something, some stimulus that pops up, a car, a person, a dog, or like this. Yes, he just offers us some attention. Right now, we're going to reward 100% of these good choices. Good boy. You're doing so good, Weller. Just to let him know we like all of that, and that's what's keeping him focused, calm, and working with us. And that's going to make a huge difference when we do have a stimulus pop up. And so that we don't have reactivity, is keeping him kind of level-headed and calm and not so wound up. Yes, good boy. Other important things are when you're rewarding is make sure we're rewarding always at our side. So even if he's walking nicely in front like he is right now, he's not pulling on the leash. Yes, but he was in front of me. When I reward him, if I mark yes to tell him that's good, yes, then my hand comes at my side and you see he still has to come back to me at my side. This is really important because we want all the good stuff, yes, to happen back here, and that's going to keep him back here more often than up there. Yes, good boy. It's also important that you use the hand closest to him, because if you start crossing in front of your body, you're going to have a dog that's meeting you in front of your body. So always use the hand closest to him. Yes, good boy, Weller. So right now, like I said, we're rewarding 100% of good choices because he's still at that stage where he needs it. Yes. And then the goal is going to be over time, you're going to slowly wean off. You're going to go to 75% of good choices, 50, 25, yes, and so on. And you see I'm rewarding that when he goes to the end of the leash, yes, and then looks at me. I love that because that lets me know that he understands he's hit his limit with the leash and where he can go, and he's checking back in with me. And we want to make sure, yes, we're rewarding all of that check-in. Again, not only does this help with leash walking, but this is going to help with that reactivity towards people, dogs, cars. Yes, because we're building a foundation that checking in is really important, really good. And that also will play in to recall, yes, and helping out with that. If there is something he wants to go sniff and he's pulling you towards it, obviously we don't want to let him pull us like this. This is a good example. He wants to go sniff that bush. He cannot pull me, but it's okay to sniff that bush. It's not dangerous. So I'm going to have him do touch, go sniff. So what I'm going to do is have him check in with me by doing a touch, and then I'm going to cue him that he's allowed to go sniff and check that thing out. We know for dogs, all dogs, but I would say definitely dogs, yes, that are wound up like Weller, this way. Sniffing is so important. It helps lower the heart rate. It's how they see the world and check it out. And it's really important that we allow that time. But obviously we can't have him dragging us everywhere. That's not going to help us. So if he's in with like the leash, like he's doing now, yes, that's amazing. Or if he wants to sniff something that's safe, but just slightly out of reach and he tries to pull, oops, sorry, Weller. Yeah, then we're going to have him do touch, and then you can cue him go sniff. He's done really great with that cue. He understands it really well. And so that's a great one to utilize as well. Good boy. This way is our cue for changing directions. As you saw, we just simply say, this way. Yes, good boy. Tell him we're doing it and then do it. And then when he follows along, you can reward him this way. Good boy. Nice job. And then we had over that we use when cars are coming. Right now, even with people and dogs, I would pull over and then do your reactivity training, which you'll see a video of shortly. But you're going to say, over, kind of guide him. Woo, Weller, that wasn't good. Let's go. Let's try that again. Too many good smells. Come here. Weller, over. There we go. Yes. So you're going to cue him over, kind of lure him to the side, reward him, do your engage, disengage reactivity training. Yes, if there's something passing. And then let's go means we were walking again. Oh, here we get a real life one. Here's another car. Over. Yes. Yes. Good boy. Let's go. Yes. Good job. That was excellent, Weller. Good boy. So overall, Weller is doing so good with his leash walking. One thing though I want to make sure I mention as well is in the neighborhood, as you can see, he mostly walks very calmly at my side. He's doing so amazing. New environments are still hard for him. So if you take him to a park, just be prepared that you're going to have to reward a little more, take it a little slower, because he's so excited about being in a new place that he is not as calm as he is in the neighborhood, which is a walk we do every day and he's familiar with and he's seen it a bunch. So we normally have to take 5 to 15 minutes when we get to a park to let him decompress, find a quiet area that he can just sniff and kind of decompress, get focused, then go on your walk. Yes. Other ways that you can practice as well to build up. Oop, did I drop the treat? Come on, let's go. Other ways that you can work to build up to that as well is if you have multiple paths or directions you can take in your neighborhood, just changing up the walk so that it's not always the same, not always taking the same route, will help build that ability to do it in different environments. So just changing it up when you can, and then just knowing that when you're in new environments and he's not doing as well, just be ready to take it slower and reward a little bit more. But overall, made such improvements on his walking and just doing so beautifully. Good boy, Weller. Good job. Go sniff is a way to help him decompress in new places, as well as just encourage him to sniff things without pulling you.
Yes, go sniff. Good boy.
For leash reactivity, we are doing a protocol called engage, disengage. And for this protocol, you do need to start at a little bit farther distance from the trigger, which is the car, the person, the dog, so that we find that line or that threshold distance that he can work with us without lunging and barking. Once he's lunging and barking, it's too late. And we'll come back to that in just a second. But the engage, disengage protocol starts with kind of step 1 of engage, which is when he looks at the thing, the car, the person, the dog, you're going to mark yes and reward him. You're going to do that over and over again while that thing is still present. He looks, yes. He should ideally turn back to you because he knows yes means he did something right and he's getting a treat. He looks again, yes. He gets another treat. He looks again, yes. He gets another treat. In the beginning, you're going to do this until either one of two things happens. He is no longer looking at the trigger first because he's over it, he doesn't care, or the thing is out of sight, which is typically in the beginning stages of this training what you're going to see. We are doing this step to do two kind of things. Pair something good with those if there's any kind of nervousness, which I think Weller is definitely more of just overly excited. He seems to really like people and dogs and just gets really wound up and excited about these things. So really what we're doing by pairing, you see the thing, you get a treat from me, is we're laying a foundation about seeing those things, those triggers, those stimulus in the environment are a cue to check back in with us. And that's what's going to help us long term pull him away from this reactivity. So he looks, yes, he gets a treat. He looks again, yes, he gets a treat. When you have farther distances, or he seems to be doing really well, he is kind of at this step with cars specifically. People and dogs are still a little bit harder for him, and that is that disengage step. So the protocol is called engage, disengage. That first step we were marking engaging with the trigger. Now we're going to mark him sometimes for disengaging. So if he looks at the thing, and before we can say yes, we give him a little pause, a 5-second pause. If he turns back to us, we're going to mark and reward that. We're rewarding him disengaging from the trigger. And that starts to show that he is understanding this pattern of, I see these things, it's my cue to look back to mom and get a treat. So he's disengaging. With this protocol, it's never clear we're just done with step 1 and then we're on to step 2. But you're going to start seeing him be able to do that disengage more with farther distances from the triggers, and definitely with cars. He's doing really well with cars. We can disengage with most of the cars, except for sometimes like louder things like motorcycles, buses, bigger things. With people and dogs, specifically dogs is kind of his hardest trigger. He is not ready for that unless he has a really, really big distance. So you're going to just kind of be like floating back and forth between those two steps, depending on the intensity of the trigger and your distance from the thing. If you're on a walk practicing and a car is coming, a person or dog, your best option is to pull him over, pull off to the side, get as much distance as you can if it is a dog. Cars, he's been good with just getting kind of off to the side of the road. And then do your engage, disengage as the thing passes, and then move on with your walk. That's the easiest way to start in the beginning. The other way you can practice is by taking him places like a park. I would start with a less busy park, or if you only have a really busy park in your area, then you start going at times where it's the least busy time for that park and build from there. He gets really excited at the park. It's a lot harder for him there. So we want to take it a little bit slower, but you can pick parks, and really what you're going to do at the park is not so much walk as it is find a space that you can kind of watch the happenings and practice with him. If you say yes and he doesn't respond by turning back to you on that engage step, you're going to put your hand in front of his nose and kind of lure him back. You'll see me doing this throughout these videos. I kind of lure him back and then deliver the treat. If he doesn't respond to that, that is our cue that he is too stressed. He is past that threshold point that he can work with us. And so really what you want to do is move him, get him more distance, help him move his body and get some of that anxiety out of his body. The other thing I've found with Weller over practicing, and you're going to see that progression through these videos, is that tossing the treats for him really made a huge difference in his response, and it helped him calm down. So instead of just saying yes and handing the treat directly to his mouth, the majority of the time what I started to do is toss the treat. So he says yes, he looks back I say yes, he looks back at me, and I kind of toss the treat just like a foot behind him. And it just gives you a little bit more time, buys you some time with the trigger, and also just helps calm him down. He really likes that movement of the treat. It helps release a lot of that energy, that pent-up energy in his body, as well as gives him an opportunity to kind of sniff for the treat. And sniffing is relaxing. It lowers the heart rate. It is really good for all dogs, but especially our reactive dogs. Leash reactivity is a long-term behavior change. This is not something that changes overnight by any means. So what you're going to see kind of long-term as you continue to work on this is that he's going to need your help less with marking that engage step and you'll be moving slowly into rewarding more and more disengage and less of engage until even from that step, he stops needing as much assistance because he can just handle walking by people, dogs, as he learns to be a little bit more neutral in the world. Another important thing to keep in mind with reactivity is that every trigger is on its own timeline. So like I mentioned with cars, he's doing really well and can be a lot closer to cars without reacting and do the engage disengage, whereas dogs specifically, he needs to be a little bit further. People are kind of somewhere in between for him. And so it's important to know that you're going to make more progress and be disengaging a lot more with cars, but you may not be there yet with dogs because that is a harder thing for him to disengage. If at any point he is reacting, he is starting to pull towards the trigger or even lunge or barking, at that point, it is kind of too late for the learning process. His brain has kind of flipped a switch and he is not in a learning state of mind. So at that point, it's getting him distance and moving him and helping him calm down so that we don't let that reaction get bigger and we don't let him practice reacting in that way. Because practice makes perfect even for unwanted behaviors. So we want to make sure if we start to see that, even if he hasn't barked or really lunged, but he starts moving and pulling forward to the trigger, that we cue him this way and we move him away to help him calm down before it gets to that stage. To wrap up engage, disengage, the big things to remember are that this is a long-term process. Every trigger is on its own timeline. And that every walk you take with him right now is going to be a training walk for both leash skills and for his reactivity. To wrap up engage, disengage, the big things to remember are that this is a long-term process. Every trigger is on its own timeline. And that every walk you take with him right now is going to be a training walk for both leash skills and for his reactivity. And that's a wrap on Weller's training.